Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of Ashraf Reacts. And this time we're going to be reacting on, again, one of my favorite channels, as I've mentioned before, a channel I've had the privilege of being on now with Foodie Mo. And this is a conversation between him, Spurs fan Will, and Arsenal fan Olu. Right, so let's look at what they have to say. It's a discussion, I think, about um, Arsenal versus Spurs, and a comparison there. And yeah, obviously there was a discussion and a debate. But yeah, let's see it. But please, guys, don't forget to obviously like and subscribe and share the video. Let's get straight at it.
Question for Will.
Yeah.
Is Ange still a far better manager than Arteta? Which were your words?
Yeah.
Okay. So you think that
you really think that Ange is a far better manager than Mikel Arteta?
Yes.
And you got a better future than Arsenal?
That's interesting. I don't see how that could hold weight right now, unless he's gonna mention, oh, he's won trophies and stuff. But I mean, look where he won those trophies. Like, I'm not trying to discredit Ange. I'm a fan of Ange. I think he does a very good job. I don't want to say he does a very good job, because I think he could have done better with Spurs. I think he could definitely got top 4 last season, but he bottled it with the team. But I like the fact that he's always looking to play attacking football. I just don't think he's in the right team for it. I think if he tries to implement this style with Liverpool, with Man City, with Bayern, Barcelona, like these kind of teams that are meant for it and built for it, I think it would work really well. But excuse me, with a team like Spurs, I just don't understand why he does it. But yeah, for me, I don't think the trophies he's won, in my opinion, should hold weight against Mikel Arteta, even though he's only won the FA Cup. Because by that logic, if there's a manager that is currently managing in the Sudanese league, for example, and he's won like 10 trophies in the last like 5 years, are we going to say that manager is better than Arteta? Of course not. So let's have some common sense.
Based on?
Because his style and tactics, look, if you look at, like, even in a game today when we lost 3-2, right? We dominated Brighton in every aspect of actually playing football. Possession, chance.
I don't know if you did. I don't think that's true whatsoever. I'm actually looking at the stats. Let me just open up the stats right here. So when you look at the stats, because he said they dominated in every football stat that matters, they had more possession, 59% to Brighton's 41. However, every other stat that actually matters, outside the fact that Brighton won 3-2, which is the ultimate stat, obviously, of the game, Brighton wins. Brighton had 1.82 xG compared to Tottenham's 1.37, so they're better. Brighton had 4 shots on target versus Tottenham's 3. They had 4 big chances created to Spurs 1. So I don't get where he's coming from. In what way did they dominate them? I don't understand that. Is he talking about possession? Because I'm sorry, that's amateur. That's an amateur argument, obviously, if you're referring to possession. Expected goals on target as well is higher for Brighton, 2.3 versus 1.4. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a ridiculous take, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm curious to see how he justifies it.
Chances, time in their half, attacks, right? All the things that you want a football team to do in order to be successful. And again,
time in their half is nothing that's important. It's not something that is of any value. You could spend all the time in their half, but if they only spend like 5 minutes in your half and end up creating such great chances, that means they played better, right? Like, I don't understand this. And why are you picking these random stats when there are better, more important stats to look at in the game, like possession, like shots on target, like big chances created, XG, which is now obviously something that all credible sites are obviously citing. So yeah, I don't understand why he's picking these irrelevant stats, because I think he knows if he starts speaking about the actual stats that usually everyone uses to measure which team played better, he knows he doesn't have an argument there.
again, it fell down to individual errors, right? That aren't a responsibility or an aspect of the system. But if you give Ange Postecoglou and you give Arteta the same core group of players, Postecoglou will get better results. Let's take the Manchester City team. You give it to Arteta or you give it to Postecoglou. Who's going to win faster? Postecoglou, 100 times over.
Look, I don't know about that. The only because I did say that I think Postecoglou's system would work better in those other teams. Would he win faster than Arteta? I'm not 100% sure because, to be honest, Arteta had to come in and build this team from like a crappy place that they were in. I don't know who would win faster if both of them get the Man City job, for example. I don't know who would win faster. I would argue right now probably Arteta because I feel like Postecoglou would try to play the kind of system he plays, which obviously leads to complete domination, but it also exposes teams at the back. Now, yes, City's defenders are a lot better than Spurs, so obviously they probably deal with those dangers better. But they're already dominating in attack and they're already dominating in defense. I feel Arteta would take over a team like City and dominate even more. Like, I don't know. I think City is a bad example just because Arteta already has like credibility there as assistant manager of Pep in the past. So I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, it's still irrelevant to the argument about who's a better manager now because we cannot judge them on these hypotheticals. Who's going to go to these teams and manage better and get better success and faster success? These are all hypotheticals, right? We can only judge them on what we have seen so far. And the reality is Postecoglou at the end of the season, if things don't go well and they don't finish top 4, there's a chance he could get sacked. Whereas Arteta, on the other hand, like he won the FA Cup obviously in that first half season, obviously finished 8th in the next season, but then after that it was just progress. So I'm not sure.
That's why.
I mean, we can't prove that, so that's the
Brighton had more chances than you, more XG than you.
Exactly.
More XG because their 3 shots that they had were all big chances.
And they had more big chances than you.
I don't like this. So now he's trying to justify, oh yeah, they had more XG because the shots they had were... Bruh. That is how it works. Like, that is how every argument works when you're comparing two teams and comparing the stats. You cannot be like, oh yeah, because they had... The goals they had was like a very high XG. It doesn't matter. That means they broke you down to a point where when they had those chances, they were clear-cut chances because of how well they broke you down. You can always come and say, yeah, Udogie made this mistake or Romero made that mistake. But that's how most goals get scored anyways, that defenders make mistakes. It's such a weird logical fallacy, in my opinion. Like when you try and justify why you conceded this much XG because of this shot and a defender made this mistake. But that's how I guarantee you a lot of their goals that they scored are obviously mistakes from the other team's defenders. I don't think that the teams they score against, I don't think their fans are looking at like, man, yeah, Spurs they were just too good for us. Their attack was just too good. We couldn't cope with them. They'll also be looking at their defenders and be like, what the hell was this guy doing? It's just common sense. Last season, they scored 2 goals against us. I'm looking at the first goal and how Saka got twisted by Maddison easily. Why the hell did that happen? Why the hell did Gabriel and Saliba let Son run through like that between them and get that goal in, right? And I'm also looking at the second goal and thinking, why the hell did Jorginho give the ball away in such a dangerous position that Maddison and Son went 2-on-1 with our keeper and ended up scoring, right? We can all play that kind of game, right? So I think it's such a weird argument to be like, yeah, the XG is because of this. Look, you conceded because they were a better team. That's it. You were leading 2-0. Whether it was because you got complacent or they were just too good for you in the second half, the point is they were the better team. They had more big chances created. They had higher XG, more shots on target. And obviously, in the end, the most relevant stat is that they scored 3 and you scored 2. So they were without a question the better team. That's it. Okay, let's see what was said over here.
Honestly,
it doesn't mean they created more or better chances. It's just the difficulty.
I'm just going to go back
between Maddison's goal, which wasn't a big chance, and the other goals was the number of defenders and the angle
still
from which
trying to justify the XG.
Guys. So what we've heard today, right? Because it's always good to listen to people. This is why sometimes you shouldn't react. So we've heard that Ange is a far better manager than Arteta. Will was previously
even if you think he's a better manager, he's not a far better manager. So I think that's obviously which is apparently what Will said. He said far better, which is I think is obviously not just an exaggeration. It's a ridiculous statement, and that's assuming he's even better. Like I think right now most clubs would take Arteta over Postecoglou. Most big clubs, in my opinion.
Said Spurs have got a better team than Arsenal.
Yeah, starting low.
And
so Olu says better team. Or Will said Spurs have a better team than Arsenal, and he's like starting 11. Like as if that's a saving grace. You don't have a better starting 11 than us, my G. Like where are you coming up with this nonsense? Our keeper is better than your keeper. Our two centre backs are better than your two centre backs. Our right back, both our right backs, Ben White and Timber, I'll argue, are better than your right back. Timber, in my opinion, is our best right back. So I'll definitely start him ahead. Calafiori, in my opinion, is better than your fullback, who he's been shitting on anyways on this stream and other streams. And other Spurs fans have done the same. You come to the midfield. None of your midfielders get into our starting lineup. None. Odegaard, Partey, Rice. That midfield is better than any midfield you could line up, right? Literally, you don't have a DM better than Partey. You don't have an 8 better than Rice. And you don't have a 10 better than Odegaard. And I'm not even taking Moreno into account because we still need to see him play games for Arsenal. If I go by what Moreno has done for Sociedad, obviously Moreno gets in ahead of any of their midfielders too, right? And when I look at the attack, Saka easily gets in on the right. I would put, obviously, Son as the striker, and I would put Trossard or Martinelli on the left, better than any other wingers. So in the entire combined 11, you get one player, and that's Son. That's it. No one else. In every other department, Saliba and Gabriel obviously get in ahead of their two centre-backs, because that's the thing that Spurs fans would probably push the most. Romero and Van de Ven, neither one of them is better than Gabriel or Saliba, 100%. We're obviously got better fullbacks, 100%, in my opinion, at least, especially given that they shit on Udogie that much. And I don't think Pedro Porro is I'm going to use Will's terms. I think he's nowhere near. I think Ben White and Timber are far better than Pedro Porro. And when it comes to the attack, Trossard and Saka, in my opinion, hell, Martinelli and Saka, in my opinion, get in ahead of who plays on the right for them. Brennan Johnson, obviously Saka is clear. And Timo Werner or whoever the hell you want to play on the left. Now, unless you want to say Solanke on the left, Solanke is a striker and Son on the left, fair enough. I'll start Son on the left, but then Solanke doesn't get in ahead of Kai Havertz. If we go by the last 1 year, I think Kai Havertz has been a better striker. So it's insane. Your starting 11 is nowhere near Arsenal. And we've seen that based on the league position last 2 seasons. We've seen that based on the head-to-head over the last 2 seasons. They haven't won against us in the last, I want to say 5 games. 5 games, yeah. They've drawn 1 and lost 4. And out of these games, 3 of them are at their ground. So yeah, it's a ridiculous take.
Also, they've got a better defense than Arsenal as well.
Insane.
You probably believe the backline is better. You believe also we haven't got any world-class player. You've got one world-class player in Son, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So with all those things together, right? When we put that in a wonderful blender, at the end of the season, Spurs should be by far better than Arsenal.
Yeah, 100%.
Everything that you believe.
100%. By that logic, if they've got a better manager and they've got a better starting 11, and you cannot be talking about the bench and all that stuff, because even if you believe our bench is stronger, right? Unless 2 or 3 of your starting 11 players are out injured for a long period of time, you shouldn't have an issue with like finishing above us, or at least, you know what, maybe not finish above us. Maybe, because I know his argument, he'll probably say squad depth and stuff. Because I haven't watched this video yet. I've watched like the first half, and then I was like, they started talking about Arsenal. I'm like, I need to react on this. If he comes and says like, oh yeah, but the bench is better, the Arsenal bench is better, fair enough. Maybe that's a reason why we would tip you. We would narrowly tip you to the league in the league position. But you should at least be challenging. If your manager and starting 11 are that much better, you should at least be challenging for the league title, which you're obviously nowhere near now, and you were nowhere near it last season either, and the season before that. So yeah, it's just an absolutely ridiculous take. Absolutely ridiculous take.
Yeah,
so we can come back. So we could no. I don't want to say we should. You will be better. So when we come back to visiting a conversation like this,
yeah, but that logic, you should be.
What should happen is that you should say, little or Arsenal are 4th, and big old Tottenham are 2nd or 1st. Because this is the things you believe, right? Objectively, these are things you believe. So I'm just saying, when
how do I
we come back to
how do I spin this?
I don't care about fitness, because part of the manager's job is to figure out how to use his team, injuries or not. We're doing that right now. But by the time we get to May, June, what we should be able to have this conversation again is seeing Spurs being way better than Arsenal. Can we shake on that?
I agree.
But we can see it right now. We create more chances than you. We play out of the back better than you. We play football better than you.
Oh, stop it. You're not better than us this season. There's a reason why the league table doesn't lie. And we've had harder fixtures, I'd argue. We've had harder fixtures. How are you better than us? By the way, you don't create more big chances than us, because currently when it comes to the Premier League table, we are 1st in the Premier League for big chances created. This is apparently the Arsenal that cannot attack, that doesn't have a good attack, that doesn't have any sort of proper attackers, and their attack is meaty. And, how will they create without Odegaard, their main creator? And yet we are 1st in the Premier League right now for big chances created. So you don't create more. Maybe he means more overall chances, but how the hell does that matter if the chances are meaty? Like, you could be... By the way, people need to know the Spurs are 1st in the Premier League for crosses, right? I think they've got like 168 crosses or something like that. Like, they spam crosses like crazy, right? Which is why all these crosses will most of them end up counting as a chance created. But majority of these crosses are horrendous crosses anyways, that like less than 30% of these crosses anyways don't even count, don't even reach the player. Forget like shot on target or a header on target. It does not even reach their own player. Less than 30% of crosses reach their actual target. So you end up inflating your chances created numbers. But if you look at the big chances created, Arsenal and Chelsea currently sit at the top of that table on I think 21 each, if I'm not wrong. So it's mad. I don't know if it's 21 or 24 each, something like that, I think. So it's definitely a fallacy. You're not a better team than us in terms of chance creation, that's for sure, especially when it comes to relevant chances. We have more goals than you. We have the 3rd best attack in the league right now. We're 2 goals behind the best attack in the league, Man City. And we obviously have a better defense as well. Again, this is despite the fact that we've had the harder fixtures so far this season compared to Spurs. It's mad.
No. Do you think you are better than Arsenal now?
The league table tells you if you're better or not. So
no, forget the league table. I don't want to hear about the league table.
Yeah, you don't even need to see the league table. Everything else is clear.
I am telling you why the league table is not the league table is sometimes an indication. Man United actually proved to every one of us that the league table lie. Man United, every underlying number last season said that they should be finishing 14th, and they finished 8th. I'm asking the league table. Look at
that's what I disagree with more. Why are all the underlying metrics saying that Man United should have been 14th last season? What metrics? I'm actually curious to see what he's referring to, because in my opinion, if they finished 8th at the end of the season, then the table doesn't lie. They finished 8th because the other 12 teams below them were just all crap. They were just worse than than United. That's it. Now, you can argue that, let's say, if Brentford, for example, finished below United, you can argue that, yeah, Brentford is a better team than United, or were a better team than United last season, relative to expectations and resources and everything. Fair enough. But if you just look at teams objectively, without looking at resources, without looking at the expectations and all that stuff, you just judge Team A versus Team B, which is the better team, then United were obviously the better team, which is why they finished higher, right? That's just common sense. You cannot be looking at it and be like, yeah, they're all the stats and all the underlying numbers said they should have been 14th. No, they shouldn't have been. If they finished 8th, that means they should have been 8th. That's just what it is. And the other 12 teams that finished below them were worse than them. It's like saying, it's like comparing, for example, I don't know, what Apple and Samsung are doing in revenue, right? And then speaking about, I don't know, Huawei, for example, maybe not Huawei, let me pick some even lower company, Nokia, let's say Nokia, and trying to say that, you know what, Nokia had like 200% growth in revenue this year, whereas Apple and Samsung had like a 5% decline each, for example, compared to last year. So Nokia is a better company than Samsung sorry, it's a better company than Samsung and Apple when it comes to revenue and all that. Of course not. Of course not. Relative to expectations, relative to resources, maybe Nokia would have done better in this example I'm giving you. Obviously, I'm pretty sure that's not the case, but hypothetically, if the example I'm giving you is true, then you can argue that Nokia did better relative to expectations. That doesn't mean Nokia is a bigger company than Apple or a bigger company than Samsung, or that they make more revenue than these companies, right? Facts are facts. So if United finished 8th, that means they deserve to finish 8th. That's just how it is.
The league table at the end.
That's what I
Do
mean.
you think Spurs are better than Arsenal now? Well,
As a unit, like in
Yeah.
what context are we better?
In
No, no,
every unit, Spurs are not better than. There's not a single aspect that I can think of, and I swear to God, I'm not one of these biased Arsenal fans. You guys know me. You've seen me in such channel. I'm always criticizing our place when there's criticism to be given, and praising our place when there's praise to be given. I cannot think of a single footballing factor right now where Spurs are better than us. They're not better than us in attack. They're not better than us in midfield. They're not better than us in defense. They're definitely not better run than us. I think our owners are better than theirs. Our manager is better than theirs, in my opinion. Our keeper is better than theirs. In a combined 11, I think only Son gets into the combined 11 as a striker, in my opinion. Yeah, there's not a single aspect. There's not a single footballing aspect where I would say Spurs are better than us. I don't know who's made more revenue over the last 1 year. If it's Spurs, then fair enough. I guess they're better than us in making money. I guess if that's the case, but I don't know. I haven't seen the net revenue for the last year. So
I don't care.
Yeah, as
Forget-
a unit, no, we're not better than Arsenal.
okay, so yeah,
Wait.
I agree here.
No. So as a unit, we're not better. But whose job is it to make into a unit?
Well, I mean, it's the
If you
manager's
got-
job, but it also has to do with the players
So-
available to the manager in order to make the unit stronger than it is, right?
Okay,
yeah, but you said the starting 11 is better, and even if you don't think your bench is good enough, if your starting 11 is better and the manager is better, even if we have a weaker bench, in my opinion, that should still make your overall team better, right? Like I don't get this logic that he's trying to say. We have a better starting 11 than Chelsea. We have a better manager than Chelsea's manager. We have a better manager. We have the better starting 11. In my opinion, we have better squad depth as well. But most people will say Chelsea probably have better squad depth because they have 1,001 players and they have backup to the backup to the backup and all that kind of stuff, right? But even by that logic, most logical people will still say as a unit, Arsenal are better because the starting 11 is better, the manager is better. Even if Chelsea's bench is better, Arsenal is still the better team, right? Same with Liverpool. Liverpool's manager, let's assume the manager is better because he's won a league in the Eredivisie. I don't know, and he started well so far. Let's assume the manager is better. The starting 11 is definitely better of Liverpool's versus Chelsea. Even if you believe the bench of Chelsea is better than the bench of Liverpool, so as a unit, Chelsea might be better in that logic because overall squad depth, they might be the better team. Nobody in their right mind thinks that Chelsea as a unit are better than Liverpool, right? Even though the bench is better. This is like the fallacy that in his logic. Like, and by the way, as I said, starting 11 of Spurs is definitely not even close to ours. But if you go by his argument that the starting 11 is better and the manager is better, your bench being weaker than us should not suddenly cause that kind of drop off where as a unit you're weaker. So yeah, it's just insane. It's insane.
There's a difference.
No,
There's a
you don't go.
difference.
No, let me.
No. You don't get to tell me that I don't get to speak, right?
You can speak.
The difference, I'm not
Getting feisty.
The difference is this, right? The gap between your players, right? As far as the drop off in your positions, your weak links, right? Our weak links are greater than your weak links. We have more great links. So if you're talking about overall rating of players, if you were to go grab an objective number like a SOFA score or who scored or anything like that, and you were add up the player rating levels of all the players, Tottenham's would be higher, right? But the weak links, our lowest is going to be far lower.
Your average ratings. Oh my God. This guy is deluded. What average ratings will be higher? Are you serious?
Than your low, right?
Right.
And those weak links we're dependent on in order to get results.
I don't understand this. So if you know all this, why did you predict last season that you would finish up above Arsenal? If you know as a unit we're better. And he didn't say this at the start of the season only. He said it at the middle of the season. He said it towards the end of the season before April. So I don't get that logic. So why were you backing Spurs? This shows it's just like tribalism. That's just what it is. He's super tribalistic. And I'm not blaming him that much for it because that's the annoying thing about a lot of these YouTube shows, unfortunately. Even though I love footy judge most shows, I'm a big fan of the Rational League, Rivals Rumble. I enjoy it sometimes just for the banter and stuff, but obviously it's not the best place to get logical football debates naturally. But this is the issue. Like, you get so much tribalism that people will just say absurd, crazy stuff just to try and prove a point, like just to back their team, right? Even if it makes absolutely no sense, right? And in my opinion, it's pretty clear that what he's saying is just, I don't know if maybe deep down inside he knows he's just waffling and he's just doing it for the show. But if he genuinely believes what he's saying, then it's just tribalism. That's it. He's basically wearing his Spurs goggles and letting it cloud his judgment. And this is the same guy who a couple of weeks ago, and I did this on my channel, and you guys can see the other video where he said Inter Milan didn't park the bus against Man City, but Arsenal parked the bus against Spurs. And his logic for that was, even though Man City had more possession, but you have to see where the possession is on the pitch, right? And we proved that stats-wise, the distribution of possession for Spurs versus Arsenal was a lot more even compared to Man City versus Inter Milan. Because 52% of the possession of the ball in the Man City-Inter Milan game was in Inter Milan's defensive third. Right? Whereas I think like 62% or something like that of the possession of the ball was either in the middle of the pitch or in Tottenham's defensive third in the Spurs-Arsenal game. Right? So even by his own logic, Arsenal didn't balk the bus and there was better distribution of possession. Not to mention, I think we had more shots on target. I think we had more chances created versus Inter Milan. And yet he said Inter Milan didn't park the bus, but Arsenal did. It's clear football tribalism. That's just what it is. Okay, this is the last part I'm going to be commenting on. I think he's referring to... So I forward the video, guys, and I try to bring it to like a point that I feel, okay, he makes sense. He's talking about like Ange Postecoglou's signings and the fact that he had no options. And
decision making is okay, right? He puts balls across the face that are dangerous, that causes threats.
He's speaking about
the only thing he's an absolute bum at is finishing. So they misidentified, or when they were looking at players to sign for the club, they may have put pace, first touch, ability of crossing, right? Those as the priorities and not the...
I'm sorry, but there are so many players out there in Europe that have all that and are better than Timo Werner. So many players have touch. And first of all, touch is such a basic thing in football. Most top 5 leagues quality players should have a decent touch, right? So many players out there have pace. So many players out there can cross the ball in. So like Timo Werner's crosses are like world class, and he's one of the best crossers in the world. So if he went and got Timo Werner just because of these attributes, then yeah, he's an idiot.
The finishing, which should be, in my mind, the very first and most important thing. I would rather see a player that's like maybe 4 to 5 miles per hour slower than Brendan Johnson, but has the ability. Take Matoma, for example, right? Matoma has not as much.
But sorry, but here's the thing, right? Like, they got Timo Werner last season on loan. Fair enough. It was 6 months loan or whatever, half a season. Not bad. Like, they needed like options. He didn't work out. Most Spurs fans were cursing him out. They went back and loaned him again. So that is on your manager, 100%. If you saw he didn't work, you would have said, hey, get me any other player on loan or for a small marginal fee from the French league or the Bundesliga or the Eredivisie or someone that has that kind of pace and touch and all, but can also finish or can also give me this little bit extra. Because you've seen this player fail at Chelsea and you've seen him fail at your club last season. So it is 100% on Ange Postecoglou if he went back for Timo Werner. Guys, as much as people want you to believe that there's not enough talent out there, that's absolute bullshit. That's just BS. I don't know why I said bullshit the first time and then I Said BS a second time, as of I don't want to correct. Like, it's mad. But yeah, like the reality is there's so much talent out there. It's just that they don't have the big names yet because they haven't got that kind of marketing. But you can definitely go and get a lot of these superstars at a younger age from these different leagues. Look at City. They got freaking Alvarez from Argentina. We got Martinelli from Brazil. Saka came through our academy. Saliba and Gabriel came from the French league. Odegaard was an outcast at freaking Real Madrid and was sent to Real Sociedad, where his numbers were not crazy, right? Who else? We have Trossard was an outcast at Brighton. De Zerbi had issues with him and his attitude. Jorginho was an outcast at Chelsea. Lots of clubs could have gone for Timber. Lots of clubs could have gone for Calafiori, right? Lots of clubs could have gone for Ben White, David Raya. And I'm just speaking about the Arsenal players. I'm pretty sure every single club can also give examples like that. McAllister cost Liverpool 35 million release clause, right? Konate came from Leipzig, and he wasn't even the main centre-back at Leipzig. Everyone was raving about Upamecano at the time, right? Robertson came from Hull City. Who else have they got? Endo from Stuttgart, even though maybe that's not the best example because he's been good for them, but not crazy. But he probably would do a better job at Spurs than any of the other DMs are doing for them, right? Who else have they got? Luis Diaz from Porto. Lots of clubs could have probably got. I think Spurs tried going for him, and he ended up choosing Liverpool for obvious reasons. But that doesn't mean you couldn't get someone else. Salah came from Roma. And I think he cost 35 million at the time, which right now sounds like a steal, right? So there are talented players out there. It's just that clubs have to scout well, and that's what a lot of clubs refuse to do. Look at us. I'm going to go back to my club again. Nobody knew about Tomiyasu before we got him. Now, I know he's been injury prone, and that's been annoying, but whenever he's been available and he's played, he's actually been really, really good. Whenever he's been fit to play like 3-4 games in a row, he's been a starter for us, right? Lots of people didn't hear about Ben White before we got him. That Liverpool team that won the league and the Champions League, Wijnaldum came from a relegated Newcastle. Mane came from Southampton for like 30-35 million or something like that at the time. Firmino came from Hoffenheim. A lot of these players play in the Bundesliga and the Liga and the La Liga and they don't have that superstar name, the superstar status. We got Mikel Moreno this season from Sociedad. I guarantee you most people didn't even know him at the start of last season. I know he played in Dortmund. I know he played in Newcastle before, but a lot of people probably forgot about him, right? Because he wasn't like that big of a name. And in Sociedad, you probably were thinking about Zubimendi more than anyone else, at least in the midfield. So this is what I'm saying. Like, I think that's an absolute fallacy. I think Postecoglou could have 100% done a lot better by getting some of these talents from other leagues. But he chose to go for Brennan Johnson. He chose to go for Timo Werner. For the same amounts that he paid for Brennan Johnson, he probably could have got a much more talented player from the French league, right? For that loan fee of Timo Werner, he probably could have loaned out some other better player, right? I feel someone like Sterling would have been a better player for them than Timo Werner. If they went to Chelsea and said, hey, we loan out Sterling and pay 100K of his salary, which is what Arsenal are doing, I feel that's a better deal for Spurs than getting Timo Werner. Sterling is without a question a better player than Timo Werner. So yeah, he can make all the excuses he wants, but the reality is his manager should take accountability, and he's refusing to give his manager any accountability. I guess he's clearly like a massive defender of Postecoglou, which, look, fair enough. But I've also praised Postecoglou and said I like his footballing style, I like his footballing philosophy, I like the way he handles himself in press conferences, but what he's doing right now at Spurs, in my opinion, is not sustainable because it's not meant for a team like Spurs. It's meant for a team that has top quality players, at least 4 or 5 world-class players in the starting 11. And in my opinion, Spurs have none. They have 0 world-class players. I don't classify Son as world-class. I think he's a very, very good player. I think he's had 1 or 2 world-class seasons. I don't think he's world-class right now. And in my opinion, he was never like someone I looked at as world-class who gets into most big teams in the world, in my opinion. So yeah, it's just absolutely insane. But look, like, that's it, guys, for this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, leave your comments as well. And yeah, obviously subscribe to Footy Judge Mo if you aren't already subscribed. I mean, if you're under a rock and you don't know this channel exists, and you somehow stumbled upon my tiny channel and you don't know his channel exists, please, I'll put the description of his channel I'll put the link of his channel in the description. It's the second time I make this mistake. Yeah, so obviously go and check his channel. It's amazing football content, Premier League content, and yeah, very good shows, very good consistency of delivering those shows as well. So yeah, anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video. See you guys in the next one.